have a list of people waiting to address the board. And for those of you who came in late that wish to address the board, I will give you that opportunity. But for now, we're going to start with Joe Bonadies. Good evening. Welcome.
Hello. Greetings. I'm here mostly to put a few things on the public record to eliminate future claims of being unaware. Based on talks I've given over the last 18 months, I hold no illusion that action will occur until it becomes awkward. So from the land of inconvenient information, there was a highly regarded report called the Corrigan Report, which is now considered the definitive statement that masking makes no difference in the fight against COVID-19 and its variants. Even the New York Times, not a bastion of conservatism, has acknowledged that. Don't go down the road again and muzzle the kids. Let's take steps to prevent the need for more SEL counselors. Number two, there were some comments from the superintendent about his entitlement to his personal information, i.e. his retirement date, after my comments during the February meeting. Yes, granted, no problem. For the record, I never asked him to tell me his retirement date. I gave scenarios if it were this summer or next summer. He's made more recent comments that it sounds like it's soon, missing Barton Mello issues and vetting. For the record, if it is this summer, a search on the internet does not find a job search posting has been made by MPS for a new superintendent. The recent Meridian job was easy to find, as are 13 current MPS teaching positions. So if the superintendent is retiring this summer, I go back to Mr. Lauterbach's comments at the League of Women Voters debate. The board has one employee. The citizens would like to know that you have done a proper search and found the best candidate for the job. Number three, my wife and I have been very amazed at some of the stellar programs that have been presented to the board, most recently robotics and the ALPS program for the Elite 100. What we have not heard much about is what is being done to elevate the school population in the disadvantaged category, where you get the $3,031,000 et cetera funding. Can we hear some goals about breaking the cycle for these kids instead of how much money we get for them? And number four, lastly, the March meeting was very lively. Apparently, you have discovered the perils of not worshiping at the DEI altar with sufficient vigor. The Midland Daily News did not use the same level of colorful adjectives to describe the rowdiness of that group versus the domestic terrorists of 2021, and you forgot to have the armed security guards at the ready as you did for the anti-maskers in 2021. You also forgot to turn off their mics after 3 minutes, as you did for us. History may not be kind to this period of history for a variety of reasons, and probably the only one we will all agree on in 10 years is the damage lockdowns and masking have done to the kids in this era. Thank you.
Deb Plaver? Did I say that right, Deb? Plaver, I'm sorry.
Very close, very close.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you. Reading is incredibly important. It is a fundamental and essential skill. I think we'd all agree on that. I have come here tonight to express my disappointment that Michigan has revised the third grade reading law with Senate Bill 12, which strikes from law a requirement to hold back third graders who fail a reading proficiency exam. This bill was voted on and passed Friday, March 24th, the first day of Michigan's spring break, and so many may have missed this. One teacher called Michigan's reading law, quote, state-mandated mass flunking of third grade students based on one reading test score, unquote. While I do not want to see any students held back, I would argue that a standardized reading test is still an important and relative measure of a student's reading proficiency. An individualized plan is to be crafted, yet some students who have fallen behind do not have the home structure and/or parental time available to implement a plan, nor in today's economy the resources to hire reading coaches. As a result, it is easy to see a widening gap between students going forward, with those who cannot read at grade level in third grade struggling and most likely unable to keep pace at the higher grade levels. This suggests that students from households with lower parent involvement, or students who are initially slower learners, or from lower income families will fall further behind and be less likely to receive a good education and graduate. Moving forward, how is MPS going to ensure that all students have acceptable reading proficiency at the end of third grade? How will the reading proficiency be measured? And how will MPS work with those students that do not have acceptable reading skills at the end of third grade? So I'm just leaving questions, and 31A money may be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Allison Wilcox, and I'm here tonight to talk about the district's support for diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in programs and opportunities for our students to learn and in the board's criteria for selecting a new board member to fill any openings that may come up should a member resign. As I came into this building, I saw the vision statement passed by resolution voted on by this body. Lead with respect, trust, and courage, ensure an equitable, collaborative, and inclusive culture, enable all to achieve success. By passing this resolution, this body has already stated and made a commitment to DEI. In other words, if there is any question about this community's support for inclusivity, equity, and inclusion, I'd like to remind you of the voting results in the November 2022 MPS school board election. The three candidates who received the most votes were those candidates who supported the DEI efforts of Midland Public Schools. Not only did they receive more votes than the other candidates, but they received a large margin of votes separating them from the other candidates. Significant enough to send a clear message. This community wants the board and the Midland Public School Administration to continue supporting DEI initiatives. So I ask you to lead with courage and trust that your community will respect you for continuing to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, both in the programs we provide for our students and in any new board members which may join this body. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Olivia, and I am a junior at Dow. I recently moved to Midland July of 2021, and in my short time here, I have laid awake multiple nights wondering how the existence of DEI issues is denied when I, a 16-year-old, have to stand in front of my school board begging something to be done about the casual racism my family and myself endure at the hands of students and administrators. I come here not as a teenager trying to defy stereotypes or insert myself into adult issues, just to express the genuine concern for my family's safety that I hold. It should not take the involvement of a child, and it's rare that I admit that I am a child, I'm going to be honest with you, to recognize the futile nature of preaching DEI-based achievements while simultaneously ignoring and minimizing the experience of marginalized groups endure. Though I do not have the answers or some perfectly thought-out solution for this problem, I know that the first step would be listening to the groups and valuing the opinions that are constantly being boasted through our DEI statistics. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Olivia. A couple comments.
I do. It's kind of a hard one. It's bittersweet, but tonight I announce that I am stepping down from my role on the Board of Education. When I was elected to a one-year term in 2001, I never dreamed it would be the beginning of 22 years proudly serving the Midland community. Throughout
Scott, on that note, thank you, Lynn, for everything. We also have another retirement that will be occurring, and tonight I would like to make a motion to establish a search committee to fill the superintendent position of our retiring superintendent.
I'll support, but I don't know that we I don't know that it's, do we have a date yet? I mean, are we getting to a date, I guess is the better question.
Well, when Scott turns over comment, I will announce what I'm doing, but you got a motion and a second, which
Okay, there's a motion on the table.
I just need to tell you that you can't do it in the timeline of me when I'm retiring, so.
We understand.
Yeah.
And we have to do a job and establish a committee and look at it. Through that, the replacement could be sitting in this room. We don't know that. We have to go through a process.
Yeah, but you don't have time to even hire a committee or a search firm in that. So your motion was for a search firm, I think?
No, search committee.
Search committee.
Search committee for the board.
Because you won't have time to bring a source then.
Okay, so motion by Mr. Blazes, support by Mr. Hatfield. Any additional discussion? I will just say I don't know that a search committee of board members is the right avenue to obtain a new superintendent when and if that time happens. It is done by a search firm, which I think we would eventually hire to do. We would have to. We use a search firm when we hired Mr. Sharrow.
So traditionally, when you do an interim, you ask the board president to bring back a candidate that you all vote on, and then you go out for a search firm and interview multiple search firms, and you conclude on a search firm, then you start about a 6 to 8 month process to do a proper search. And the process, which I'll talk about a little bit, occurred exactly that way 10 years ago.
All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Are we proposing to do something different than what would be standard protocol or MASB guidelines? What are we proposing to do other than how many members does the committee have? What is the?
Well, it takes full board approval. So you really ask your board president typically to work with your school attorney on a contract for an interim and bring back an interim candidate.
So
Establishing a search committee would be 3 people. And if that is then putting together an RFP to go out to the search firms, I'm just doing the first steps of this. That's all. Establishing a search committee.
okay.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will oppose it. I think it's premature at this point, but. Ken? 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, motion carries. I guess we have to figure out what the search committee looks like and what its purpose is going to be.
Typically, you appoint all committees as board president. Less than a quorum, so it's 3 or less.
Okay. I will work on that. Okay, Mike, floor is yours.
So about 10 years ago, Scott, Lynn, you guys may recall, and I didn't model any of this off yours, Lynn, but ironically, there's some crossing points. I sat at a table out here, and you two sat at this table, and you were the only 2 left that are still sitting here at this time. So, and Scott, you may remember, you were a relatively new board trustee at that time, and you asked me a question. The question was, if selected, how long would I be willing to serve?
I remember.
Yeah. And I actually responded 10 years. And later on, when I left, the committee discussed in open session, as they were supposed to, and Scott made the comment to Jerry Wasserman, they thought 10 years was kind of short. and Scott didn't understand probably at the time that the average life of a superintendency is about 3.5 years, and it's decreasing as you go. And so, and as I was joking with our state superintendent when he visited last week, I said, superintendent's years are like dog years. So I have somewhere like 107 after 19 years. So I'm not sure, what that means for my future going on. So, but I've certainly done my time. As of June 30th, as of June 30th, I have had the fortune to serve as superintendent in the public schools for the past 10 years. And today I'm giving the Board of Education notice that my last day as superintendent will be July 31st, 2023, when I will be retiring. Scott and Lynn are the only 2 remaining Board of Education trustees from this board that hired me in 2013. It is my estimation as a superintendent, I've worked with over 40